Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Now many of us have been to Vrndavan many times. And some of us haven't been to Vrndavan yet. But for sure, we didn't go to Vrndavan this Kartik. So many devotees were encouraging, let's do a virtual visit to Vrndavan. And this is a little bit late for a virtual visit for Kartik month, but the feedback so far is visiting virtually. Of course, it's not the same, but it's very beneficial because topics about Krishna, Harikatha, Krishna Katha, and the holy name of Krishna, because again and again when visiting the places of Govardhan, names of Krishna and Krishna's devotees have been spoken again and again, and it has a very dramatic, purifying effect. There's lots of mystery involved in Krishna's pastimes. Certainly included in that mystery is the mystery of Govardhan. We've heard many of the dimensions of that mystery, so we're going to continue and conclude this 4-part visit to Govardhan Hill, Govardhan Parikrama, and this is the final part 4. Something that was mentioned in the morning class, I'd like to show an image. Places where Rasa Leela was performed. We mentioned 3, and one that I couldn't recall the name of. There's an image, it's Sevakund. The image is taken, or the photo is taken from the boundary wall. You can see on the lower left corner, that's the boundary wall of Sevakunj. During visiting Govardhan Hill, at the southern portion, the Punch, or the tail of Govardhan, is one place where the spring Rasa Leela occurred. And in the now Vrndavan town, Vangshivat, another celebrated place where Rasa Leela occurred, we mentioned. Nidhivan was also mentioned. That's Nidhivan, if you've been to Vrndavan, it's the area just across the street and in the vicinity of the Mohan Temple. Then this other Sevakunj is another area. And very shortly we're going to hear how Radha and Krishna performed Rasa Leela near Radhakund Shamakund. In other words, there are many places in different times and different seasons and different moods of Rasa Leela. So here we go. The prayers of Rupa Goswami, which you'll get a copy of at the very end, or at least you'll get a link. You can download a copy if you like. Since we're followers of Rupa Goswami, Rupa Anugas, we look up to Rupa Goswami's very special regard that he has for Govardhan Hill. And as you hear the recitation or the singing of this song, or Ashtakam, just a few notes. Listen to the melody and the meter. It's very charming and heartwarming and easy to fall in love with it. I shared with another time this many times during the course of the day. Without trying, this melody will appear. I don't know the words yet, but I'm thinking by viewing this many times, I'll come to know the words and recite the words and offer prayers. But even just a melody is so charming. The mood is a mood of seeing Govardhan as a devotee. We certainly know Govardhan is Krishna himself. Krishna demonstrated that personally during the Govardhan Leela. But he's also Haridasa Bharya, or the best of the devotees of Hari at the same time. He's Hari and a devotee of Hari at the same time. Very special personality. And being a devotee, he distributes Krishna's mercy. So Rupa Goswami wants his mercy, and the mercy that he wants from him, he discloses in the final verse, if you listen carefully. He wants to become a follower of Srimati Radharani. He wants to have that same mood of love and be assisted by Govardhan to enter into that mood. A very wonderful prayer, and we're going to run through this one more time. Let us begin.
गोविन्दस्य कंसितवंशी क्वलितोद्यये लास्योत्कण्ठामत्तमयूर व्रजवीता राधाकुण्डो तुङ्गतरङ्गाङ्कुरिताङ्गा प्रत्याशाम्ये त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्। O Govardhan, surrounded by hosts of peacocks intoxicated by the desire to dance that is arising due to the enchanting melodies of the Vamsi flute, which decorates the beautiful face of Govinda. O Govardhan, whose limbs display horripilations of joy in the form of sprouts that grow due to the high rising waves of Radhakund. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires. यस्योत्कर्षाद् विस्मितदीभिर्व्रजदेवी वृन्दैर्वयं वर्णितमस्ते हरिदास्यं चित्रैर्युञ्जं सद्युतिपुञ्जे अखिलाशां प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्। You are the one whose excellence caused the astonished groups of gopis to describe you as Haridasa Varya, the greatest among servants of Hari. As you illuminate all directions by your various clusters of amazing light, emanating from the transcendental moonstones, sapphires, rubies, etc. on your surface. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
See the image of Govardhan in the upper right.
विन्दद्भिर्यो मन्दिरतां कन्दरवृन्दै कन्दैश्चेन्दोर्बन्धुभिरानन्दयतीशम् वैदुर्याभे निर्जरतो येऽपि सोऽयम् प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
You are the one who delights the Supreme Lord through various caves that resemble jewel-bedecked temple sanctums, as well as through your khanda, elephant foot yam, your water lilies, and also through the sparkling, clean, dark-hued waters of your waterfalls. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
शश्वद्विश्वालङ्करणालङ्कृतिमेध्यै प्रेम्णा धौतैर्धातुभिरुद्दीपितसानो नित्याक्रन्दत्कन्दरवेणु ध्वनिहर्षात् प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
Oh, Govardhan, whose plateaus are glowing due to your various minerals, like natural red arsenic, oxides of various colors, etc., thoroughly washed by your pure love, which constantly act as pure ornaments for Hari, the ornament of the entire universe. Oh, Govardhan, whose caves always appear to sing out loudly due to the joyous sounds made by hollow bamboos. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
राज्याराजिर्यस्य विराजत्युपलानां कृष्णेन सौ सन्ततमध्यासितमध्या सोऽयं बन्धुर्बन्धुरधर्म सुरवीणां प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
You are the one whose great multitudes of flat stones appear splendid when they're constantly used by Krishna as places for sitting.
He's sitting on the upper right on a flat stone.
You are the friend of all the cows, and thus your nature is very sweet. Oh, Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
निर्द्वन्द्वान संहृतिहेतुं घनवृन्दम् जित्वा जम्बारातिमसम्भावितबादम् स्वानां वैरं यः किल निर्यापितवान् स प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
Oh, Govardhan, you are the one who certainly overpowered the destruction causing hosts of clouds. Thus, having conquered the unconquerable Indra, you are the one who calmed down the burning enmity of your mountain relatives. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
बिभ्राणोऽयं श्रीभुजदण्डोपरिभर्तुस् छत्रीभावं नामयतार्थं समकाशेत् कृष्णोपद्यं यस्य न कस्तिष्ठति सोऽयं प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
You are the one who gave true meaning to your own name, as you accepted the role of an umbrella hanging over the beautiful arm of your Lord Giridhari. You are the one whose worship is established directly by Krishna's revelation. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
गान्धर्वाय केलिकलाबान्धवकुञ्जे क्षुण्णैस्तस्य कङ्कणहारै प्रयताङ्गा रासक्रीडामण्डितयोपत्यकयाज्ञा प्रत्याशां मे त्वं कुरु गोवर्धनपूर्णाम्।
Oh, dear friend of Gandharva Radha, assisting her in the kunjas, forest bowers, in her love sports. Oh, Govardhan, whose limbs are decorated with her fallen ornaments, like bracelets and garlands. O Govardhan, equipped with surrounding flat areas, decorated with the signs of Rasa Leela. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
अदृश्यानि शेखरपद्याष्टकमेतत् कृष्णाम्बोध प्रेष्ठपटेद्यस्तव देहि प्रेमानन्दं तुण्डिलयं क्षिप्रममन्दं तं हर्षेण स्वीकुरुतां ते हृदयेश।
O crest jewel among all mountains, O mountain dear to the dark cloud-hued Krishna, may the Lord of your heart, Krishna, happily accept the living entity who studies these 8 prayers dedicated to you, while quickly nourishing his boundless joy of prema. O Govardhan, please arrange the fulfillment of my desires.
this ashtakam is not just entertainment, it's a prayer. As with any devotional activity, particularly visiting holy places, a prayerful mood, inviting the mercy to enter and fill your heart is natural. And of course, the refrain is very significant. The refrain of making an appeal, in this case, Govardhan, to fulfill all desires, meaning the spiritual desires. So this is a Google map taking a look at where we were previously. At the bottom center, that's Manasi Ganga. And we came back the other side of Govardhan Hill, which you can see a little bit in the very lower left corner. But when Govardhan Town starts, you no longer see the mountain. The red line indicates the path, which is going from left to right, or by compass, it's going in a northerly direction. And if you recall, one of the last places we visited was up there in the around 1 o'clock on a clock face. That's the Kund, where the followers of Chandravali would take their residence. Very much like the residence of Varsana area, where gopis connected to Radharani. This is an area connected with Chandravali. And then we're going to continue moving in the direction that the red line shows and step back a little bit. And where we're heading with this red line is what you see above. Above, where the red line ends, on one side, that's Uddhavakund, and on the other side, it's Kusum Sarovar. Just below the red line, go down, and you see a square that's blackish in color. That's Kusum Sarovar. And on the other side of Kusum Sarovar, that's the structure, the monumental war memorial it's beautiful architecture. So that's where we are on the map. And in a moment, you'll see there. That's where the last portion of Govardhan is viewable, outlined in blue. And that's where we're going to take a look. Govardhan is sinking down and down into the ground. And along the road, there are not formal temples, but like exhibits in honor of Lord Shiva and Nandi on one side, and Durga and her lioness carrier on the other side. Here's a more close-up image of these two personalities. There's Durga and her lion carrier. Here's Panchamuki, Lord Shiva. You'll see these as you're going along the roadside. Normally we don't stop, we just keep walking along the Parikrama path. But we're taking a look at some of the forms of the Lord or his devotees depicted here. This is Panchamuki Hanuman. Very, very, very tall Murti. And he's got a big club in his hand, as you see. And his big club is really, really big. And when that really big club hits some object like this fellow's head, it must hurt. So we don't want to get in the way of Hanuman's club. Down the way a bit, we see another sculpture. Not exactly a deity, but Krishna holding up Govardhan Hill, and some of the cowherd men with their cowherd sticks helping Krishna in case the hill gets a little heavy for him. Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu riding on the back of Garuda, kind of interesting looking Garuda. And this is Garbhodakshai Vishnu with Lord Brahma growing out of his navel on a stem from that lotus flower. And Goddess Lakshmi is massaging, well, normally here she's massaging his feet, but here she's massaging his lower legs. In this way, there's reminders of the Lord and his devotees as we walk along the Parikrama path. And when I first visited Govardhan, there was no tarred road. And it was somebody's bad idea, in my opinion, to make a tarred road, because what that meant is that taxis and motor rickshaws and all kinds of noisy, smoke-making, pollution-creating vehicles go up and down that road. Right now you don't see any, but it happens. And the soft spot where all the pilgrims walk, you see in this image, and there's another image, the pilgrims don't walk on the tar. It's too hot and too uncomfortable, but the soft sand of Vrndavan is very natural and pleasant. And many, 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 literally hundreds of thousands, depending on the time of the year and the festival and everything, devotees circumambulate Govardhan Hill on a regular basis. So we're passing now what we just saw where that red line is, and it's moving next to Uddhavakund. That's the aerial view of Uddhavakund. By the roadside, that's the Uddhava Temple. And the backside, the greenish square, that's the Kund itself with little extensions into the Kund. We're going to hear a little bit more about Uddhava shortly. This is the temple as you see it approaching on our right. And in the backside, that's where the Kund is. There's a lot of history connected with Uddhava and the Uddhava Kund. And we'll start with when Krishna went to Mathura, taken there by Akrura, Krishna and Balaram, after killing of Kamsa and the whole situation and freeing his mother and father and Ugrasena becoming installed in the throne, Krishna sent Nanda Maharaj back to Vrndavan with the words that soon he would return. He gave different reasons, like satisfying the relatives that were there in Mathura and all, social proper things. But when Krishna gave thought to returning to Vrndavan, he felt it wasn't prudent to return just yet until the demons were killed because lives were at risk and so forth. So he sent Uddhava to Vrndavan with that celebrated message from Krishna to the gopis, specifically to Radharani. And the letter that Krishna wrote to Radharani, or at least a paraphrase of it, is found in a writing called Uddhava Sandesh. And I'm going to read some of it. Very nice. Oh girl, Srimati Radharani, devoured by the sufferings of your heart. Oh girl, now rolling about on the ground, in the forest, where we once enjoyed pastimes. Soon I will suddenly and unexpectedly walk on the pathway of your eyes, the flute placed to my mouth, and my limbs decorated with designs drawn in mineral colors. With waves of bliss, I will wash away all your sufferings. In this secluded place, I will make you blossom with happiness. Now that was Krishna's intended message for the gopis, but Radharani didn't buy it. In fact, just the opposite. She began in a mada, unmada, divya unmada, in a state of madness. She began blasting that bumblebee. You can't perhaps see it so well, but the bumblebee is up by the flower, one of those 3 flowers in the upper right corner. And her eyes were completely fixed on the bumblebee, and her heart was completely fixed on the bumblebee and Krishna, because she was speaking to the bumblebee as if the bumblebee was Uddhava. Although Uddhava is right there in her background, she just completely lost the sense of where she was and who she was, and began speaking very, very harshly at this bumblebee, calling him the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. You're just like your master, you bumblebee. You land on the flower, drink honey as much as you like, and then you fly away and leave the flower and go to the next flower. So Krishna is just like you, or your master is just like you. She didn't say Krishna by name, but he associates with young women, he enjoys with them for some time, and then flies away. So please leave me. Don't touch my feet. You want to humble yourself before me, but I know your tricks. You're just like your tricky master. Get out of here. I want nothing to do with you. In so many ways, so many statements she made, blasting the bumblebee, which was blasting Uddhava, because he was the messenger of Krishna, and she knew that. And then all of a sudden, when the bumblebee disappeared, she took a U-turn and said, no, don't say all those things to Krishna, because I know who Krishna is. I know what he's like, but I'm completely attached to him and I can't help myself. And if you say all these things, maybe he will never come. So please don't go. Please don't repeat what I said. Like that, she was going on in madness, speaking to the bumblebee. Uddhava, meanwhile, is completely overwhelmed with the intensity of the love of the residents of Vrndavan, particularly the gopis. So he ended up not just delivering Krishna's message, but he spent a whole month giving transcendental knowledge and understandings of Krishna to the residents of Vrndavan as best he could to pacify their hearts. And after some time, he returned to Mathura and reported everything to Krishna. Now, Krishna, again, didn't come right away to Vrndavan. In fact, he went all the way to Dwarka from Mathura and stayed in Dwarka for a long, long time. Now, after Krishna's departure, we find a situation in the Srimad Bhagavatam where after the residents of Dwarka departed this world, had left the gopis unprotected. So Arjuna very carefully protected them so they would have a place of well-being in Hastinapur under Maharaj Parikshit, the new king. After some time, he became the new king. And after Maharaj Parikshit became king, he had the wives, or the queens, stay with the great-grandson of Krishna, named Vajranabha. And Vajranabha, it turns out, from time to time, he would go to visit from Mathura to Vrndavan and to pay his respects to the Brijvasis, because he knew that they were in great distress, feeling Krishna's separation. And he noticed that amongst Krishna's queens, they were also in the same condition, but one amongst them, named Kalindi, she was very calm and peaceful all the time. And so he inquired, what's the secret? How are you able to remain peaceful all the time? So I'd like to read what Kalindi says. It's very edifying. It's very practical for our devotional service as well. Kalindi said, Srimati Radharani is practically the soul of our beloved husband, Sri Krishna. I constantly remember her and engage in her service, dedicating whatever I do at her lotus feet. and therefore no suffering can touch me. All of you are also intimately connected with her. Many of you are even expansions of her, but somehow, in separation from Krishna, you have forgotten this fact. And this forgetfulness has caused the pain you're feeling. A similar thing happened when Krishna left Vrndavan. The gopis became overwhelmed with their feelings of separation from Krishna, while actually they were not really separated from him. Theirs was a type of reflection of separation. And when Uddhava came and consoled them, their pain was extinguished. So now, if you are able to get Uddhava's association, you'll also rise above these feelings and become absorbed in the happiness of eternal pastimes with our beloved Lord Krishna. The other queens were very happy to hear, and they applauded the words of Kalindi and asked Kalindi, how can we find Uddhava? Let's go find Uddhava, so we can be pacified like the gopis were pacified. And Kalindi replied, after his visit to Vrndavan, Uddhava became desirous to take shelter in Vrndavan as a blade of grass. Now, by the side of Govardhan hill, that's where he is, in the form of grass and shrubs. Let us go there, near Kusum Sarovar, with Vajranab, and have a great Sankirtan festival. And when we're chanting the holy names of Krishna, Uddhava will not fail to be attracted, and he'll show himself to us, and then we can ask him to pacify our hearts, like he did with the gopis. And hearing all of this, Vajranabha was very enthusiastic. Let's go immediately. And King Parikshit in Hastinapur, he wanted to go also. So the whole group of queens, Vajranabha leading them, and Maharaj Parikshit, they all went together to Vrndavan. And when they reached Kusum Sarovar, they had a big Sankirtan festival, loudly chanting the holy names of the Lord again and again and again. And it became so ecstatic that from the grass surrounding Uddhava Kund, Uddhava manifested himself in front of their eyes. From amidst the grass, shrubs, and vines, Sri Uddhava made his appearance. He looked remarkably like Lord Krishna, with his bluish complexion and golden-colored clothes, decorated with a beautiful garland of forest flowers. As he emerged, the beauty of the festival overflooded, just as when the moonshine falls on crystal. Everyone forgot about everything else and simply fell at his lotus feet, crying tears of ecstasy, which means Uddhava had already departed this world in his Uddhava form, and he had taken now another form as a blade of grass around Uddhava Kund. But hearing the kirtan and the ecstasy of all these wonderful devotees, he showed his Uddhava form. Uddhava then instructed Lord Krishna's queens, as well as Maharaj Parikshit and Vajranabha, on the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Now this is taken from the Padma Purana, the Bhagavat Mahatmya section. Now there was a chronological question that came up earlier today. Padma Purana was composed before the full Srimad Bhagavatam was composed, which the Srimad Bhagavatam was composed last. So how does Padma Purana know the details of the Srimad Bhagavatam? That chronology, I don't have the answer for. I'm anticipating somebody might ask. The only thing I can consider is somehow the author, Vyas, being Trikalagya, could understand what would happen before it happened. The composition of Srimad Bhagavatam and its glories. Because there's a huge section in Padma Purana about Bhagavad Mahatmya. Whenever and wherever, you go back. When Lord Krishna is unmanifest, he will appear from Srimad Bhagavatam. Whenever and wherever the devotee Bhagavata hears and recites the book Bhagavata, at that time and at that place, Lord Krishna personally appears. Whenever a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, or even a half verse, is recited, Lord Krishna and his beloved gopis will manifest there. So those of you that have Srimad Bhagavatam, be sure you open it and manifest Krishna in your home. And those of you that don't have Srimad Bhagavatam, please get Srimad Bhagavatam and recite it regularly, just as we're doing by describing these pastimes of Govardhan. Uddhava continued. Although Krishna eternally enjoys pastimes in Vrndavan, his beloved gopis were afflicted by feelings of separation. He therefore sent me there to impart the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam to them. The gopis of Braja were thus freed from the pains of separation by accepting the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam according to their own intelligence. And even though I do not understand the mystery of Bhagavatam myself, still I have experienced the wonder of this great literature. That's Uddhava consoling the queens, and then he decided, he took them from Uddhava Kund to the backside, or Kusum Sarovar, and for 1 month he instructed them thoroughly in the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. And while relishing the topics of the Bhagavatam, the listeners saw Krishna manifest his transcendental pastimes everywhere. And they could see themselves taking part in those leelas. Vajranava saw himself situated at the right foot of Lord Krishna, and thus he felt relief from the pains of separation. The queens were most surprised to see themselves situated in the pastimes of the Moonlight Krishna, who inaugurates the night of the Rasa dance. Being cured of the disease of separation from their beloved life and soul, they, one by one, returned to Goloka Vrndavan, and even other people who were present there also disappeared and entered the Lord's pastimes. Padma Purana concludes this passage by saying, to this day, devotees who are greedy to attain the mellows of transcendental love can sometimes see these pastimes at Uddhava Kund. So I haven't seen those pastimes at Uddhava Kund. But I believe the scripture that elevated souls can see those things. This is the image of Uddhava coming to pacify the gopis, the section from Bhagavat Mahatmya from Padma Purana that describes all these nice things. Here's the Kund. Of course, it's images at different times of the year. The water level is kind of medium here. Here it's a little bit lower. Here it's really full. During the rainy season, you can see the greenery in all directions, different at different times. And look at the very, very top of the image. That's the backside of Kusum Sarovar. Oh, excuse me, the architecture on the side of Kusum Sarovar. Here's some of the ISKCON devotees taking a break from their Parikrama, reading, chanting, relaxing, because it can be exhausting going around Govardhan Hill. So now, this is when the water is at a very low position. Here we're at a very, very high position, and even more greenery. So that's Radhakund, and here's the backside of the Kusum Sarovar architecture. And here's Giriraj Sharma. Those of you that have been there, you recognize his smiling face. He's often wearing a turban, and he's the pujari at this very small temple with very nice deities. This is the new set of Radha Uddhava Bihari, and by their side another altar is the old Uddhava Bihari, Radha Uddhava Bihari deities with some Shalagram Shilas at their feet. And over here, this is Uddhava himself. Nice little temple and nice history connected with it. Govardhan Shila, of course, by the side of Govardhan Hill. And another Shila looking very interesting. Nicely decorated. So now we're going to continue from Radhakund and head where that patch of white rooftop buildings is on the right side. That's Radhakund Town. And before we get to Radhakund Town, see that canal. There's a canal running from the far upper right corner and down towards the center. That's the irrigation canal that runs from the Jamuna River through the whole of Braja for the agriculture of the area. And down, you look straight down, that's a bridge. We crossed over that bridge going on the southerly direction. Here's an aerial photograph of Shamakund on the left side, Radhakund on the right side. Radhakund is more rectangular. Shamakund is an irregular shape. We'll find out more about that when I do the full Radhakund Parikrama. Nice story. And in between the two kunds, there's a sangam, a connecting little walkway. Over on the left side, you see from the agriculture canal, there's fields where the farmers are taking care of the agriculture very nicely. As we approach Radhakund Shamakund, we're going to stop first at what's shown as number 1. That's Gorkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Before he went to Mayapur, we know he went to Mayapur and became the Diksha Guru Bhaktisiddhanta. But before he was there, he was here in Vrndavan. And one of his bhajan kutir places is right along the Parikrama path. And it's a Gopinath temple, and these are the deities there, Radha, Kunja Bihari, and Mahaprabhu. And it's winter time, you can tell, because they're dressed in nice sweaters. And this style I've seen many times in the Gopinath temples, especially in Vrndavan. They use these knitted sweaters as part of the standard paraphernalia for the winter attire for the deities. Then we're going to enter Radhakund and Shamakund. That's where the number 2 and number 3 are. And that little spot in the corner, that's where the Parikrama path brings you into Radhakund. This is another aerial photo. At another time, you see there's more agricultural fields being engaged. Now, when Caitanya Mahaprabhu arrived in Vrndavan, all of this, what's now Radhakund Town, was also just agricultural fields. But he divined the presence of Radhakund and Shamakund and disclosed that to the world later. The kund that you see now was excavated by Raghunath Das Goswami. Here's an artist depiction of the two kunds and Radha Krishna at the center, and the gopis surrounding Radha and Krishna, assisting them and their loving pastimes. So when you come to Radhakund on the Parikrama path, this is the first darshan that you get of Radhakund. Look in the background, you'll see those blue painted buildings. We'll see that several times as we go along. Now, center screen, there's a darker blue building. That's the Radha Gopinath Temple. And sticking out into Radhakund is the sitting place of Janava Baitak. The tree is a tamal tree under which she would chant for shade. And that white structure that's right just beneath the tree was her sitting place as well. It was built just for her because she was the most exalted Vaishnava following the departure of Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda. Janava was the principal wife or eternal associate of Lord Nityananda. And she was very closely connected to the Gopinath deity, which is in this blue building. We'll tell some more as we get there. Here's Vishwanath and some prayers that he wrote about Radhakund Shamakund. Radhakund and Shamakund are Govardhan's two love-filled eyes. They are two great floods of the nectar of beauty. They are two great oceans of splendor. They are two beautiful roots from which sweet devotional service grows. Now on the far side, that blue structure, that's the Sangam, and the water is very high. It's not always that high. And there's some pilgrims moving up and down that walkway in between the two kunds. They, Radhakund Shamakund, are two jewel mines of love. They are two seeds from which grow the jewel vines of transcendental pastimes. How did they become two splendid and nectar-sweet lakes? There's that blue building again. And on the left corner, the Sangam, the archway that doesn't have sides. By seeing these two lakes, Radha and Krishna believe they are present in them. It is as if they directly see each other there. The wise say that by approaching these lakes, one directly approaches Radha and Krishna. On the left, that's the sitting place of Janava. It's very nice. The tree and the little white structure for her, so she could sit and chant peacefully without being disturbed. Even there's a little walk down set of steps so she could take her bath privately in Radhakund. I think that when Radha saw Krishna, she melted with ecstasy and thus assumed the liquid state of the waters of Radhakund. And in the same way, when Krishna saw Radha, he also melted in ecstasy and became the waters of Shamakund. In this way, these two lakes bear the names and qualities of the divine couple. There's an even closer look of the Sangam and some pilgrims there. You see in the far corner, there's a puja being done by one of the local priests. Very peaceful setting. This is taken from a rooftop of one devotee. We're going to get a zoom close up in the background, back there. That's Shamakund in the foreground. That's Radhakund. And pilgrims come. Usually it's many, many pilgrims half immersed in the water like this, offering their prayers to Srimati Radharani and to Radhakund. Here's a nice lady doing the same, very fixed, very devotional, reciting prayers in honor of Srimati Radharani and offering her respects. Here's one of the local priests or pandas who is very friendly with Bhakti Caitanya Swami. That's how I got the picture. And on more than one occasion, I think it was 2 or 3 occasions, he assisted us going around to all the places. And if you happen to go to Radhakund yourself without a group, Be careful, because these priests can be pretty aggressive and make your visit, unpleasant. So good if you can make some arrangement in advance or be with somebody that knows how to do that so you don't get harassed, because otherwise, like I said, it can be an unpleasant experience. Here's Babaji sitting, chanting his japa. Another ISKCON devotee looks like, chanting his japa very peacefully by the side of Radhakund. Very nice place. Very nice place. In the corner over here, in the far left, it's Panda with his up to his ankles in water, arranging for a puja. And to the right of him is another couple that's doing their self-made puja arrangement. Here's another, it's not a panda, it's just a sadhu. And he's having a pandit do a puja for him as well, and some remnants. That's one of the practices of the local devotees in honor of Radhakund, to offer a ghee lamp and some prayers to Radhakund. In the marketplace, there's so many things. This is a big pile of kumkum and other items, other articles for worship. There's decorative bangles and if you ever need bangles, you know where to go. They have lots of them over here. And our friends, the monkeys, they have their place in Radhakund Shamakund. Nice parrot. Green parrots are very popular, very common in Vrndavan. And sweet shops along the path leading to in and out of Radhakund and Shamakund. There's all these different shops. And widows that spend their final years or days in Vrndavan, many such ladies make their way to this area. This is a typical any time of the day scene where the walkway circumambulating around the two kunds. You see many people moving in both directions and absorbed in many cases, particularly the pilgrims, absorbed in chanting. And these are the places we're going to visit. We've already gone for 1 hour, and I'll try to go quickly because of time constraints. There's 8 places, and we're going to start at number 1, which is the Radha Gopinath Temple. We saw the outside of the Radha Gopinath Temple. Here's the inside. It's said that when Janava visited Vrndavan for the first time, when she went to Radhakund, she came to this area, there was nothing. And she said, this is Gopinath's place, build a temple for him right here. She was able to divine his presence by her presence. And on the altar, by the side of Radha Gopinath, these are not the original Radha Gopinath, they're in Jaipur. These are replacement deities or pratibhu deities, language at the bottom there. She, in Caitanya Charitamrita, says that Janava in Gora Lila is Ananga Manjari in Krishna Lila. And it's stated like that in Gora Gunadesh Dipika. So her being Ananga Manjari, Radha Rani's younger sister, she has some very special connection with Krishna or Gopinath. And so she was able to understand so much about, she was attached to Gopinath. That's where she made her sitting place. She arranged or instructed for the temple to be built. Mentioned here also is that, I don't know how it works, but it also says in Caitanya Charitamrita that Gopal Bhatta Goswami is said to also be Ananga Manjari. And there's a closer image of the deity. And next, after Radha Gopinath, we'll visit Raghunath Das Goswami's temple. it's not temple, Bhajan Kutir. It's in the same structure, the same compound, that this, the kirtan hall where the photographer is standing is the same kirtan hall on the opposite end of Radha Gopinath. One building and one temple room. And on the far end, that's his Bhajan Kutir. It's where he sat and did his chanting by the side of Radhakund. And the painting in front of his samadhi structure is a painting, celebrated pastime, where Raghunath Das was so absorbed in chanting that when two tigers came to also take water from Radhakund, he didn't even notice. He was so absorbed in chanting. But somebody did notice in the background that Sanatan Goswami, who chastised Raghunath after the tigers left. Why don't you build a bhajan kutir? So eventually that was done. There's another close-up image of the two tigers drinking water. So that's Raghunath Das Goswami's Bhajan Kutir 1 and 2. Then we're going to go to another very nice temple with very nice deities and something very special, Radha Govinda Temple. These are not the original Govindaji deities. They're also in Jaipur. But Rupa Goswami, when he would spend some time at Radhakund, these deities were being worshipped, and they're very nicely taken care of, as you can see, and dressed very nicely. And just outside is the tongue of Govardhan. Now this is a Govardhan Shila inside, but outside this is the tongue of Govardhan. And I'll describe a little bit what that means. Tongue of Govardhan was discovered when Radhakund was being excavated. What happened was, there was a very wealthy man who had great admiration for Raghunath Das Goswami, who offered him a large donation. Raghunath had no interest in money, but he said, if you use these funds for constructing a nice kund for Radha and Shyamasundar, then we can use those funds in that way. So that was the arrangement. Raghunath Das took counsel from Jiva Goswami and from Rupa Goswami, and the construction began. And as they were excavating the kund, one of the workers, using a shovel or a spade, struck a rock, and the rock began to bleed, and he freaked out. So he went immediately to Raghunath Das and told him what happened, and Raghunath said, whatever it is, take the rock out and treat it very gently and continue your work. That night, Raghunath Das had a dream, and in his dream, Govardhan personified came, Haridas, Haridev or something. And you see that line in the Shila, that you maybe see it a little bit better, a little closer. It runs from the center down the side towards us. It's a straight line. That's where the shovel pierced the rock. And Govardhan said, that's my tongue. And I want you to put this tongue, this Shila, in a very special place and worship nicely. So this is what the worship of the tongue of Govardhan looked like many, many years ago. And here's what it looks like today. They've spruced it up quite a bit. And especially for festival days, the deity is dressed very nicely and worshipped, even with a nice crown on and everything. Today, there's a little structure surrounding, because before it was just out in open air, which Govardhan, that's fine. Govardhan Shila, that's fine. But the arrangements have improved over a period of time. So that's Radhakund, number 3. Radha Govinda. And we're moving along, because time keeps ticking. We're going to go from Radha Govinda to the Jaganath Temple, number 4. This is what the outside of the Jaganath Temple looks like. Largely, it's the devotees from Orissa that look after Lord Jaganath. And here's the Jaganath deities. Now, the Pujari is a very nice man. He's well known throughout Vrndavan. He's certainly very friendly to ISKCON. And he's previously was a professional, something like an engineer, and he lost interest in that, went to Vrndavan, made this Jaganath Temple by the side of Radhakund, and has made many, many maps and books about the places of Krishna's pastimes. Some of the maps that we've been looking at came from him. His name is Sarup Das Baba. Nice man. And nice deities. And now we're going, after Jaganath Temple, we're going to number 5. And number 5 is right close to the Parikrama path, but on the backside of Jiva Goswami's Radha Damadar Temple, you can see Shamakund. You're at Shamakund, in fact. You'll see that in a moment. So here's the entrance along the Parikrama path. This is where the photographer is. And once you go inside, there's the Kirtan Hall. And on the far right side of that structure, that's the sitting place or the Bhajan Kutir of Jiva Goswami when he would come to Radhakund. And then just to the left is the deity of Radha Damadar. Again, the original deity of Radha Damadar is no longer in Vrndavan. The original deity of Radha Damadar is in Jaipur. There's a Radha Damadar temple in Jaipur, and that's the deity that Jiva Goswami worshipped. So the one that's downtown Vrndavan is not the original deity worshipped by Jiva Goswami, nor is this. The original deity is in Jaipur, but these are deities, presumably they were worshipped by Jiva Goswami, the Patibhu deities or secondary deities, replacement deities. Nice deity form. Very simple, quiet place. And there's a Govardhan Shila on the altar. And in the backside, that's where you can find Shamakund. And look in the far distance, there's that blue structure again. That's where the Sangam is. So it gives you an idea where you are in the whole overview of our travels around Shamakund. Next, after Jiva Goswami's Radha Damodar Temple is that dark square with a 6 on top of it. That's Lalita Kund. And some flooded area on the backside. So the flooded area on the backside you can see, but Lalita Kund is that front area with the boundary wall around it on the backside. There were, long ago, before my time, but it is said there were kunds for each of the principal gopis. The only one remaining is Lalita Kund. An ISKCON artist made a nice painting showing that Radha and Krishna would engage in love sports in the Kund here. And here's a nice painting of Lalita. We know it's Lalita because of the type of sari that she has with peacock feathers along the side of the sari. And as you see on the lower left, it's not an ISKCON artist, it's a local artist who made this nice painting of Lalita. Now, all around Govardhan, Radhakund, Shamakund, there are many persons selling japa beads and neck beads and all kinds of Tulsi bead paraphernalia. So if you ever need beads, you know where to go. There's many, many, many. And if they know that you're an ISKCON devotee, the price will double quickly or triple. So you have to be clever to figure out a way to not pay what visitors from ISKCON have to pay. A local person is best. And here's some of the samples hanging. That's Lalita Kund. And now we're almost finished our parikrama around Radhakund Shamakund. Next is the sitting place of Lord Caitanya. Here you see the Sangam again. And leading close to the Sangam is the sitting place of Lord Chaitanya. It is said after he found Shamakund Radhakund, he sat here and chanted the holy name for quite some time. This is his sitting place, at least it is said like that. It's not very large, but it's certainly very peaceful. And very nearby, where Lord Chaitanya's sitting place is the Mohan Temple. It's where Sanatan, one of the places that Sanatan Goswami spent time. When he was at Radhakund, it was here. And inside, behind this gate, is his sitting place, or bhajan kutir, where he would sit and perform his chanting of the holy name. And to the side, to the right side of his sitting place, or to our right side, is the deity of Radha, Madan Mohan, and Lalita and Vishaka on either side. So there's a little closer picture. Here's a really close-up picture of Madan Mohan, and the Shalagram Shilas down below. And nice pastimes took place here, which we're not going to do now because of time. But if Krishna permits, we will have a visit to Radhakund in detail, and we'll tell some of those nice pastimes. So there we are, back to the Sangam, and you see the local devotees enjoying association with one another at that place. And there again, in front of us, is the sitting place of Janava. The season is different, so the tree isn't so full of foliage, but you can get an idea of how far out into Radhakund it juts. And here's some prayers spoken by Lord Chaitanya about these places. Of all the gopis, Radharani is the dearmost. Similarly, the lake known as Radhakund is very dear to the Lord, because it is very dear to Srimati Radharani. Just as Srimati Radharani is most dear to Lord Krishna, so her lake, known as Radhakund, is also very dear to him. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most beloved. In that lake, Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani used to sport daily in the water and have rasa dance on the bank. So there's a fifth rasa dance location. Indeed, Lord Krishna gives ecstatic love like that of Srimati Radharani to whoever bathes in that lake, even once in his or her lifetime. One more. The attraction of Radhakund is as sweet as that of Srimati Radharani. Similarly, the glories of the Kund are as great as Srimati Radharani's. Who within this world can describe the glories and sweetness of Sri Radhakund? This is the words of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And look at this lucky fellow. He's swimming around 24/7, his whole lifetime in Radhakund. But better for us if we get a human form of life, because we can chant and dance and take Krishna Prasadam and introduce other spirit souls to Krishna's message. But he's a very fortunate living entity to be swimming in Radhakund his whole lifetime. Back home, back to Godhead, right? So follow the red line. We're almost done. The red line will take us back to where we started the first day, and that's Krisam Sarovar. Notice, kind of running up and down towards the far left side, that's the canal. We're going to cross the canal again, and then get to Yugal Sarup Temple. That's number 2. And Radha, and Kusum Sarovar, that's that black square on the left side of the screen. There's the canal. Here's a pilgrim doing Dandabat's Parikrama. Very austere, but surely purifying. And here's the Radhakund Yugal Sarup Temple. You don't probably recognize it from an aerial photograph. Here's what it looked like from the front. And I've never been inside this place, but the photographer has, And he's introducing us to the head pujari, whose name is Yasoda Nandana Das. And it turns out he's a disciple of Jayapataka Maharaj. And very friendly and very hospitable, naturally so. And here's the main deity in that temple, Radhakanta Yugala Swarup deities. And notice in the lower right-hand side, it looks like Radha Madhava from Mayapur, huh? And we're nearly done now because we've completed our Parikrama. We're heading back to Kusum Sarovar. That's where that number 1 is. Then the memorial or architectural structure number 2, the Uddhava Temple, Banbihari Temple by the roadside, and back in the backside, that's Radhakund. So that's it for our Govardhan Parikrama. And it's only been 1 hour and 20 minutes for this session number 4. We didn't have to walk anywhere. We just clicked a few buttons and moved on to the next place. But Bhadra can tell you what it's like doing the Brajmandal Parikrama for a whole month. And it's a lot different than a virtual tour. But we did it. We completed circumambulation of Govardhan Hill and heard the glories of some of the places at Govardhan Hill. And we now have some time for some discussions, if any of the devotees. So would you like to moderate and facilitate calling on people? Shamohini?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, thank you so much. First of all, I want to let everybody know that I will be sharing the link with after the during the questions and answers. The link is going to be shared in the chat. So please copy and paste, and you will have access to the link that Maharaj was talking at the beginning. Also, I want to check the questions in Facebook and Messenger first so that we don't miss anybody. And then I will come back to Zoom. Please raise your hand and enable your videos so it's going to be you will be easily accessible. Will that be okay, Maharaj?
Sure. The link is to the Govardhan Astaka prayer, by the way.
Yes. So I'm actually sharing it as we speak. It is shared, so please make sure everyone copy and paste so you have it. If you're on Facebook, please just mark on the comment, would like to get the link, and I will personally forward that link to you. So, questions from Facebook. The first one is from Anjali Devidasi. So who's taking care of Srila Prabhupada's Shrilas nowadays?
I don't know. That's a nice question. If you can find out the answer, let me know. I'm sure some devoted soul is doing that.
Next question is, where in Jaipur are the Radha Damodar, Radha Govinda deities?
Well, there are multiple temples, not only of Radha Damadar and Radha Gopinath. Most of the deities, Govindaji deity we know is at the palace of the king. Where the other deities are, the locals will know. I visited all of them, or most of them, but they're in different locations. So you can get a map or ask a local when you go there, and they'll take you to those places.
Next, what is the story behind Radhakund and Shyamakund?
Well, there are different stories about what's behind Radhakund and Shyamakund. But if you tune in next time, I'll give you the detail. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes about it in one commentary. It's a very lengthy commentary, and it has to do with Krishna being requested by Radharani to purify himself after killing of Aristasura. But it's a long story. It could take 10, 15 minutes. And maybe what I'll do, if Shamohini, you remind me, I'll send that commentary of Vishwanath to you, and then you can forward it to the group. But if you remind me, then I'll do that.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Maharaj. Okay, now for anyone in Zoom, please raise your hands so that we can enable the video. Bhadra Prabhu, you're already on mute. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Dandavad.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
I really appreciate. Thank you by the heart, because hearing is the most important, and you really particularly took me to Govardhan today for last 2 days, because that's what I do. And I really appreciate by heart. Thank you. I really appreciate for sharing this. This hearing is the most important, and really narrated very past times of all the places. Thank you.
The last part, my apologies, it went very fast. And it's not normal.
I know.
It's not
What can you do?
It's not my style to go very fast like that, but to be very honest, I'm exhausted.
Well, next time we like to hear all the, because,
Okay.
So many places, Radhakund.
Yes, I was also thinking, since I do wish very much, and that means I'll probably do it in a reasonable time frame, we'll go in detail around Radhakund. That's where I went fast. But there's lots of stories connected with those 30-some places around Govardhan, around Radhakund and Shamakund. Very nice stories.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Sri Govinda Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it was just a compliment. Thank you so much for the wonderful.
You got to speak a little louder, okay? Closer to
Thank
the
you so
microphone.
much.
That's better. Closer to the microphone is better.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the wonderful virtual Govardhan Parikrama with all the details. It was such a nice experience.
Thank you.
As if being in Vrndavan during the Govardhan Parikrama. And special thanks to Bhakti Caitanya showing Maharaj's pictures, because it made it real nice and wonderful, just like the real experience. So, heartfelt thanks to both of you. Hare Krishna.
Any questions?
I'll pass your words of gratitude on to Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Any more questions? You can unmute yourself and raise your hand.
I see something in the chat box.
Yeah, that was actually Sri Govinda Prabhu, so
Okay.
he was able to talk to you.
Okay.
So we don't see anybody here
Okay,
right
we
now.
have some of our local devotees. Shatarupa. We have some of our local devotees here, most likely wanting to raise questions. So they're a very active group with lots of questions usually.
This is from Krishna Archana Mataji. May I kindly know if ISKCON devotees can take a bath in Radhakund and Shamakund? This is from, not Krishna Archana Mataji, sorry. This is Krishna Mohini Mataji.
Okay. There's no policy, take a bath, don't take a bath. There, historically, when Prabhupada first visited Vrndavan and took the devotees around Govardhan Hill, the young American devotees, not knowing any better, started playing water sports in the Radhakund, and Prabhupada was very disturbed, and he ordered no more bathing in Radhakund. Some years passed, and then more petitions and appeals to Prabhupada to take bath, and then he gave the following instruction: only if you are very respectful and peaceful, something to that effect. So I would say, now going forward in time, take permission from your spiritual master before attempting to bathe in Radhakund or Shamakund. And if you get permission, then do so very calmly and peacefully and reverentially, because it's the most sacred place in the universe.
This question is from Shambhala Mataji. The question is, what is the significance of taking birth in Govardhan specifically?
The significance of taking birth in Govardhan specifically is you get Govardhan Prasad, the mercy of Haridas Varya. So that's the significance.
This is from Shri Radhika Mataji. Your comprehensive and immersive parikrama gives me a greater appreciation for what treasure Srila Prabhupada left behind,
Yeah.
impelled by his deep empathy for us. Who would have never known Govardhan or Radha and Shamakund had he chosen to continue to stay in this transcendental dham instead of venturing into the land of the free and home of the brave. Similarly, your empathy at the cost of your own exhaustion is heart-softening.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada's mercy is our life and soul. Or without life and soul, where would we be? We would be dead bodies. That's it from this side. Any more from your side? And if nothing more, we're ready to say
I have more Kumarati, and I just want to share it with everybody else. Thank you so much, Maharaj. We are looking forward to have you with the Radhakund and Shamakund series and everything else. We were just glued, Kanapuras and the other bigger screen watching. We are just fascinated. Now we remember how many things we missed just when you are around, and now we have a cheat sheet that we can go and take advantage of that. Thank you so much.
next time you make a visit to Vrndavan, I'm sure the experience will be deeper and more profound, and you'll be looking forward to it even more so in preparation. That's what's going to happen.
Yes, yes. So I have more from 3. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Can we cut the whole thing?
It's okay. We cannot see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. We're finished anyways.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for a wonderful seminar, and you're right. We are definitely looking forward to going to Vrndavan more prepared. Thank you so much. Really
Haribol.
appreciate it, and thank you for extending yourself so much, giving the classes for both the yatras on the same day, different classes. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.